Before we delve into today's case, we want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Sudoku, a mobile game where a woodblock puzzle meets a Sudoku grid. Keep watching the video and we'll tell you more about them. The Kendall Hall murder mystery is one which is extremely perplexing and leaves many of us curious as to what occurred that September night in 1977. Sigrid Stevenson was born on the 24th of January 1952 and was described as being very friendly, if not quite a reserved young woman. She was always kind, but cautious and very rarely socialised. She was quite introverted and would avoid mass gatherings like parties. She much preferred spending time in her own company. Sigrid had a huge passion for music and was extremely talented at playing the piano. She had achieved her master's degree in music a few years prior and planned to become a teacher in the future. Sigrid was known to live a very transient lifestyle and constantly moved from place to place, being unable to settle in one place for very long. Today's video is kindly sponsored by Sudoku. Sudoku is a challenging and engaging game which involves moving woodblock puzzles in the style of the classic game Sudoku, a game I've played since I was a child. I thoroughly enjoy playing Sudoku as it reminds me of my fun-filled childhood days. All you have to do is place wooden blocks in the 9x9 board and fill the rows, columns or squares to clear them from the game and earn points. Just be sure not to run out of room before beating your high score. There are hundreds of challenging levels and it's great for testing your IQ. The levels are much more difficult than they look. The graphics are smooth and the sound effects are satisfying to listen to as you progress through each round. You end up travelling to different locations, including the likes of Canada, which adds a fun and unique feature to the game. It'll keep you endlessly entertained and always going back for more. It's relaxing to play as there's no time limit to each puzzle. I personally use it to help calm my anxiety. I recently had my driver theory test and it really helped distract me from the nerves that I was feeling. Sudoku is entirely free to play with no in-app purchases and is available to download on iOS and Android devices. It's a challenging game that definitely gets your brain juices flowing, but it's so easy to get addicted to it. You can play the game offline as well, so you don't even need to have internet access to play. Download Sudoku today by clicking the link in the description below or by scanning the QR code. It really helps our channel out and we really appreciate the support. Thank you again to Sudoku for sponsoring today's video. Over the summer months of 1977, a 25-year-old Sigrid managed to rent a room from a Trenton college professor after a cross-country hitchhiking trip. However, in August of that same year, Sigrid wanted to move out and decided to move in with a volunteer fireman who was working for the Ewing Township. The identity of this fireman is unknown. On the night of September 4th, Sigrid decided to sneak into the campus's performance hall nearby, known as Kendall Hall, situated on Park Drive, to practice playing the piano in the auditorium. This wasn't particularly out of character for Sigrid, as she was known to stay at university buildings after hours on a regular basis. She would spend much of her time playing the piano, studying or just reading books, some of the usual activities students carry out whilst attending university. Some stated that Sigrid had accidentally locked herself out of her room, and the college professor who rented it to her was actually still on vacation at the time, therefore Sigrid couldn't gain access. As a result, she decided to go to Kendall Hall to take refuge until the family returned from their vacation. Sources differ on Sigrid's living situation at the time. as some claim that she wasn't living with the professor by this point, but with the fireman. To this day, this detail remains a little sketchy. At around midnight, whilst doing his rounds, Trenton State College police officer Thomas Coppotallo was passing when he noticed Sigrid's bike was still sitting in the bicycle stands. Thomas went towards the doors of Kendall Hall and noticed that they were all locked up. However, they were reportedly very easy to break into. The last group of people known to have used the facility that night was a drama group, so Thomas found this a little unsettling, given the fact that the bike was still parked outside. Thomas did recognise the bike as having belonged to Sigrid, as it was quite common for her to stay at the university buildings after hours, but he was jarred at the fact it was so late, being around midnight by this time. He decided to enter Kendall Hall, and as he cautiously approached the stage, he was met with unimaginable horror. He found a blood trail which led towards the stage, and he followed it until he came upon the lifeless, naked body of Sigrid Stevenson, lying face down with her hands bound, her body wrapped in a piano cover and surrounded by a pool of blood. Her shirt was also wrapped around her face. Various pages of sheet music that lay upon the piano were strewn with blood, as were the stage railings. Some of Sigrid's belongings were found at the scene, including a pair of her jeans and her wallet, which contained some cash and traveller's checks. This, to police, instantly ruled out a robbery theory. Upon investigators arriving at the scene, they were quick to establish that Sigrid had been bludgeoned to death in an extremely violent manner. Despite being found without wearing any clothes, however, there was no evidence to suggest that Sigrid had been victim to a sexual assault. According to various reports, Stevenson had apparently been bludgeoned with such a force that the professor who went to identify her at the morgue couldn't confirm her identity by looking at her face, only by her hair. The police took to the lakes and nearby vicinities, where they scoured endlessly for the murder weapon, but as they were carrying this out, an autopsy was conducted. The results revealed that Sigrid had suffered from a fractured skull, compounded by profuse bleeding. Despite extensive searches throughout the region, the murder weapon to this day has never been found. Despite the lack of DNA technology at the time, police managed to question over 100 people, including students, ex-roommates of Sigrid's, and also the police officer who was on the scene that night, who made the grisly discovery. Many of these people were interviewed more than once and also took polygraph tests, but despite extensive questioning, police have never arrested a single suspect in Sigrid's case. The biggest question remains: who killed Sigrid Stevenson and why? Over the years, there has been much speculation over the identity of her killer. Whether it was someone she knew or whether it was a random attack remains unclear. Why would someone take such a promising young woman's life in cold blood and in such a violent way? Due to the fact that Sigrid had been beaten so severely, it did suggest to the police that the attack was one of a very violent rage, one of passion, though it is impossible to know 100%. Authorities in Trenton State have never named a single person of interest in this case, leaving the Stevenson family frustrated and heartbroken at the lack of leads, still to this day hoping for justice and answers. Who took Sigrid's life, and why? There has been much speculation over the years as to whether Sigrid had a boyfriend at the time of her murder. Many have suggested that the volunteer fireman that she was staying with at the time may have been a boyfriend, but again, this is purely speculation and has never been confirmed. Sigrid was known to be an extremely independent young woman and very much kept herself to herself, so it doesn't particularly seem out of the realms of possibility that she may have had a secret relationship that she did not disclose with her loved ones. However, once again, at this point, this is purely speculative. Sigrid's family and friends, however, do not believe that she was seeing anybody around her time of death. To this day, rumours circulate around Trenton State University campus, now called the College of New Jersey, that Sigrid's ghost still haunts the campus, her spirit acting unforgivingly towards her killer. Despite the time that has passed, Sigrid has never been forgotten. Much of this case remains unclear, and the lack of forensic evidence has led to a lot of unanswered questions. Fingerprints, as well as other crucial evidence, was not collected at the time, making it almost impossible for authorities to progress in this case. The trail has simply gone cold, but the hope of finding answers, especially for Sigrid's loved ones, is still very much alive.